Hello and good morning, friends. Today we're going to be taking a look at a house from 1988, and it hasn't been inspected for a while, so we don't know what we're walking into. So I'm going to take you with me while we go ahead and take a look and see what's going on. Before we do that though, we need to make sure we take a look at the records, so I'll see you in a few seconds. Alrighty, let's go ahead and take a look at these here records. So we see that we are working with a 1,500 gallon tank, distribution box of 2 trenches. This is going to be roughly our dimensions right over here. So generally in this area, it's going to be expected to see a riser at the surface. Distribution boxes usually won't have any kind of access, and at this time period, trenches did not have observation ports. So let's go ahead, take a look outside, see what we're working with, and see if that matches what's actually in the ground. All right, so we can see here that we have our tank and all of these little green plants. Don't know what they are, but they're very common in this area. So we're gonna go ahead and pop open this lid and see which side of the tank we're on. Usually in this area, these large risers are going to be over the front, and then somewhere over there should be the rear of the tank. So let's go ahead and pop this open and see what we're working with. All right, so this was actually in fact over the front of the tank. We can see that there's a little bit of root intrusion right along the inlet line. So that needs to be resealed, but not surprising with the trees that are next to the tank. So very common in our area to have this little plug right on the front. That plug exists so that way if something gets stuck in the pipe or stuck in that front baffle, you can physically push it out of the way. This lid is so that way you can actually open up the big lid to get in there and pump out everything you need to pump out. Now we can see that soil is working its way into this riser, which means that it's not a watertight riser. Watertight risers are not inherently a problem. However, the issue is that it allows excessive groundwater to infiltrate into the system. These systems are only designed to handle a fair amount of water, right? So for this one, we're designed to have about 600 gallons of water per day. So if you have groundwater getting in, you're gonna get more than that 600 gallons of water, which will shorten the life of the absorption system. The absorption system is actually the most expensive component of a septic system. And the reason why is that it's entirely dependent on the type of soil that you're working with. If you have good soil, good area, good drainage, usually you can get away with more traditional septic system, such as drain fields. If your soil is a little bit more clay, maybe there's a little high water table, that's where you end up with more of an advanced system like a sand mound, and those are not cheap. So let's go ahead, mark out the edges of this tank, see if we can get that outlet lid open and see what we're working with as far as absorption system. Alrighty, so we have everything dug up on the tank. So we have our outlet line right here. This concrete part is the baffle, right? That's job. It is supposed to keep all of the scum floating material from getting past the tank and into the pipe and into the distribution box. We can see here that the camera's got a good view of the box itself. We're not seeing any shenanigans inside of there, so that's good. But we can see right over here, this is where our box is gonna be. So each of these flags is gonna be the corners, and the drain fields are gonna work their way over beyond the driveway, which is kind of a not great idea, but it is what it is. One thing to note, they have this cable right here. I don't know if this is going to be an active live cable or not, but one thing to note is that it wasn't marked by the utility company. Kind of a pain in my butt when that happens. Could have got us into a bit of a pickle if I hit that while I was excavating the rear of the tank. Fortunately, I was doing it by hand, and thank goodness didn't hit that line. But that shouldn't be anywhere near your septic at all, right? And the reason why is at some point you're gonna have to do some digging, and you're gonna hit it. The utility companies should know better, and they should be marking their crap. But I guess in this particular circumstance, they didn't want to. Now, in our area, distribution boxes seem to generally last around 20 to 30 years. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. It just kind of depends on the sewer gases that your system's off-gassing and how well it vents, right? Now, the other concern with this particular one is that there's a driveway over top of these drain fields. Inherently, is it the end of the world? No. It's just you run into the risk of having additional weight on top of the trenches. The additional weight that you put on trenches could potentially cause collapses or compressions in the pipe that could lead to some more serious and damaging problems. Namely, like if, for example, somebody was to move and they had a moving truck park on that line, it's a lot of weight. A smaller vehicle, SUV, stuff like that, it really shouldn't make that big of an issue. But it's important to make sure you know where things are, and that's why we're marking the drain fields out now. If you've never marked your absorption system, drain lines, septic system, if you've never marked any of that stuff out or have a sketch, hopefully the county should have one on file, but you'd be shocked how often homes that are older than 1990, nothing. Those records just mysteriously disappear. But it's a good idea to have this marked out. So if you ever plan to do anything with the property, you know where your stuff's at, you know where not to build, you know where not to dig, not to drive, stuff like that, right? Generally in our area, most of the systems will be pretty close to the house, within 50 foot or so. Every now and again, you'll get one that's a little bit further away. So where people usually run into issues is swimming pools. Swimming pools are where most of your problems come into play, and a lot of the counties, especially in Baltimore County, are starting to get way more strict on homeowners who want to put a pool in. The county will actually make you have to go and have an inspection just like this, just so they can prove, no, the septic is not where they want to put the pool. Even though in this particular circumstance, the septic's up front. So even if they wanted to do a pool, it's nowhere near any of the septic equipment. But because so many contractors have messed up in the past, now the county's got to get involved. Whenever the county gets involved, obviously more stuff needs to get done, and that's never fun for anybody. Same thing with paperwork. The county loves their paperwork. But I hope that you kind of got a good idea of what all to expect on an older system like this. Really, the only big issue we have are those trees are starting to act a little goofy, and they're putting their roots where they shouldn't be putting them. So they just got to remove those roots, right? Relatively basic, simple task, but super important. If you have an access point like this one where you have a riser on the front or a clean out on the front, pop it open every now and again. Just take a look. Make sure roots aren't growing. The concern with having roots over the inlet line is as you're flushing solids, those roots could potentially capture them, and nobody wants sewage backups into their home. It's never fun. If you gained some value from this, if you found this entertaining, hit that like button, hit subscribe. I have more videos posted every day on the World Well and Septic, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.